Hey guys, it's Bethany with AB Cute Creations here with another tutorial for you. In today's tutorial, I will teach you how to make these super stretchy boot cuffs. They're a fantastic option for those of you who need a range of sizes or can't find the proper size for your boot cuffs. When I decided to turn this pattern into boot cuffs, I had in mind a more rougher, rugged look for boot cuffs as opposed to the typical frilly style that you may see out there. I thought this was a great option for the look that I was going for. These can be easily customized, either longer or shorter, by either adding or removing stitches at the beginning. You can also create more rows if you need it wider, or less rows if you want to make it smaller. But again, they're a great choice because they do stretch so much. Here is a list of the supplies that you will need to make this project. You will need yarn. For today's tutorial, I used Lion brand Pound of Love yarn. This is a good option because it's worsted weight, but it's a thinner worsted weight. So if you can get away with a thinner worsted weight, that's your best option. Otherwise it can become a little too thick and you may have trouble fitting your boot cuffs under your boots. A hook. For today's project, I used a size H or a 5mm hook. If you need to go up in size, if you're a tight crocheter, especially with slip stitching, please keep in mind you can always go up a hook size or two. Scissors, and a yarn needle for weaving in your ends. Let's get started with this super simple and easy to follow pattern. To get started with your boot cuff, you have to figure out how tall you want it to be. I started with 23 chains, which left me with this height of 22 stitches going back and forth. You can do more or less than that if you'd like to adjust your boot cuff accordingly. So I'm going to start by chaining 23. And remember, for your chains, you don't want to be too loose and you don't want to be too tight because you're going to need to work your way back through them. Once you have your beginning chain, you can start working your way back in the second chain from the hook. Now, I like to work in the back loops, but you can work in whichever loop you would like. And you're just going to single crochet, you're going to slip stitch, you're just going to slip stitch all the way back. This is very important that you do not slip stitch too tight because you will not be able to work back, or you will have a very difficult time working your way back if your stitches are too tight. So your chain should look like this so far. What we're going to do now is we're going to chain one, and this is where our pattern repeats. In our back loop only, so if you're looking at the top of your stitches, you see the V. In the back loop only is where we're going to be slip stitching all the way across. So we're going to insert our hook, we're going to thread over, and we're going to pull that through. So again with the next one, we're going to insert our hook, we're going to yarn over, we're going to pull through the loop, and then we're going to pull through the loop on our hook. And that's your slip stitch. So we're just going to keep going all the way across. And I'll meet up with you at the end. You want to make sure that you're counting all your stitches as you go across because it's very easy to lose a stitch, and I'll show you that at the end of the row. I am back and I am just finishing up my 35th row, or I'm sorry, my 35th rib row, which is actually my 70th row on my boot cuff. So it is currently about 5 inches wide. And at the end mine will be about 10 inches, not stretched out, 10 inches long. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this row. So we're going to slip stitch, and I wanted to show the end of this row because the last stitch, this is what I'm talking about. If you're working up your row back and forth, this is why it's easy to lose a stitch. I still have one more to go, but you can see that it almost looks like I'm finished. So if you haven't been careful up until this point, you may have noticed that last stitch can be kind of difficult to see. So that's why I said count your stitches, make sure that you're completing all 22 of them or however many you put on. Okay, so now we're done. We want to join our ends. So we're going to chain one, we're going to turn our work, and then we're going to put the ends together. Now this, again, you have to be careful and make sure you line up your stitches because we're going to slip stitch all the way down. And how I like to slip stitch, you will see a slight seam, but it'll look nice and neat. I pull from the first, I go in the front loop now. So if you can see, I insert my hook into the front of the loop, and then on the other side, I work into the back loop. So I'm going to go into the back of that first stitch. And to get started can be a little trickier, but you're going to pull through both loops, and then you're just going to continue pulling through the loop on your hook and complete the slip stitch. So we're going to do that all the way down. So again, we're going to insert into the front loop only, and then we're going to connect it to the back loop of the other side. And again, it can be tricky, especially since it's your first row. Okay, and then we're going to slip stitch to join. And then just continue that all the way down until you have your cuff completed. Okay, I'm up to the last 2 stitches. So again, I inserted into this front loop here, and I'm going to go into the back on the other side, pull through, and complete my slip stitch. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish it off with the last one. Okay, and I always like to finish by closing off my slip stitches with a chain one. I'm going to cut it, and then we're going to weave in our ends. I like to just go and weave them both in, zigzagging through it a couple of times. But this is what your seam is going to look like, and we'll flip it inside out. And this is what it looks like from this side. So it's there, but it's hardly noticeable when you join the way that I had described in the video. And even less so when you have it folded down and all of the ribbing is showing. So it's a great join method for this boot cuff. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you like this tutorial, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date with all of my other tutorials as I come out with them. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section down below. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.